Good afternoon, everybody. I am coming to you different time than normal. Normally, I'm here 8:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time on Clubhouse, live on Clubhouse, and I will go on YouTube and LinkedIn and Facebook. But we had our session on Clubhouse today. If you're not on Clubhouse, part of Breakfast with Champions, and our normal segment, we were talking a lot about what happened over this weekend and the things that happened, the attempted assassination of former President Donald Trump. And actually, during my segment, we had a Secret Service, former Secret Service, join us in the discussion. So the whole morning, instead of our normal segments on there, we were discussing that. So I'm going to go live now since this is a weekly update on AI and things that are going on. So I always wanted to get this out there. So I wanted to go through a little bit. Let me take it back to 1985. And we had a crazy man named Doc Brown who wanted to create a time machine.
Wait a minute, Doc. Are you telling me that you built a time machine out of a DeLorean?
So if you did not see the movie Back to the Future, yes, he built a time machine out of a DeLorean. And the reason I bring that up, there was a lawsuit that came out of that. So the main character was played by Michael J. Fox. His father, Crispin Glover, played George McFly. And Crispin Glover was in Back to the Future. He was not in Back to the Future 2 or 3 because of contract negotiations and whatnot. There was issues and decided not to. And when they did the original movie, they had a mold of his face, as well as the other actors, that they had to age them. So they had to go from high school to when they were older. So in doing that, they created a mold of their faces, and then they would put the makeup on top of that to make them look older. Well, the problem was when he decided not to do the future movies, they replaced him with another actor. No problem. He had no issues with that. But he did have an issue with the fact that they used the mold on his face that they made in the first one to be able to make the actor look like him as much as possible. They also put him upside down in the back brace and a whole weird thing going on there, which he was not happy with the performance. And I don't blame him. It wasn't a great performance. And he was not happy the way the actor did it. So he wanted to make sure people knew that it was not him. So he started the lawsuit, ended up settling, got some money from it. But the problem that came out of that was the copyright. You know, what do you really own as far as, obviously back in 1985, different technology than we have now. But they still, made something that was a likeness of him. And for a lot of people thought it was the same actor. And things came out of that for the Screen Actors Guild. I talked more recently with the recent strike of the Screen Actors Guild and things that went into that. And there's a lot around the world of AI. And there was a lot of issues there. And they wanted to make sure things that were in place to keep these things, in place to help protect the actors, both from a visual standpoint, from the voice standpoint. We look at all of the different things that are out and available now as far as these tools that are out there. We can, use these things to do this. For example, I want to play this clip for you.
I have another dream. Yes, it is me, Martin Luther King. I came back from the dead to say something. As I was saying, I have another dream. That Anthony Hudson will be Michigan's 8th District's next congressman. Yes, I have a dream again. Okay, now I am going back to where I came from. Goodbye.
My name is Anthony Hudson, and I approve this message.
So obviously, candidate Hudson had some issues with that and had to apologize for what was deemed a disrespectful video of using the voice of Martin Luther King to, using AI to recreate the voice of Martin Luther King, and so he was getting endorsed by him for his candidacy. So those are the things that we can see, and obviously something like that, everyone knew right away it was not Dr. King. For obvious reasons. And, he went back and had to say that. So, but the problem is with this, when we look at some of these things, there's obviously copyright. There's rights especially for the actors. And that's why Screen Actors Guild went through all this. So there's rights and privileges that you would have. But a lot of these copyrights run out. So we're seeing that now with the original Mickey Mouse and what Walt Disney's going through, and their original copyright has lapsed on that. So people can use that for anything they really want at this point, and things that Walt Disney won't be happy with, and things that Walt Disney won't be making money off of. So as time goes on and we see some of these things happening, and we can see the tools that are available out there, there's going to be a lot of questions on what to do, how to do these things, how to move forward, things that are more modern and have the copyright protection on them. Not as big a deal, but as you don't have a copyright, or as things are happening, or if even people are just using it on platforms like Bumble. So if you're dating and you use a platform like Bumble or some others, there are AI generated images and whole things that are being built up for catfishing. So they're creating entire profiles on there using AI, not only for the pictures, creating this whole new person using AI to create a whole backstory, put that on there, and putting that, whether they just want to get on the platform just to look around and not know who the person is, or actually go through and catfishing and dating scams. I've talked a lot about financial scams, things that come out of that. People can call up. It would sound like someone is calling you, and the name, the voice. It sounds just like them, but it's not. It's someone has used AI to create their voice on there, and a lot of people are getting scammed that way. So it's becoming more and more difficult to be able to figure these things out and figure out what's going on there. So as that is happening, these companies are reacting as quick as possible to build technologies and building tools that will be able to detect what amount of AI is being used. I talked last week about Meta and made an update to Instagram, because they just made a blanket. If they detected any AI, it would say the image was made by AI. Now, you might have an image, it might be a headshot where someone used a little generative AI just to clean the image up. Maybe adjust the background or make the picture a little different color, and it would say made with AI. But you're like, well, no, this is a picture. That's me. So there was a problem there where they're going back and forth, and they figured that out where they're going to do, AI is involved in it, and you'll be able to click on that and see to what level and to what's going on there with that. So we continue to see more and more of this, and how companies are reacting to it. But there's also really good ways to use these platforms, and we see companies like Synthesia and HeyGen are coming out, and these, the video platforms. I've talked a lot about Sora and some of these other platforms that are not available to the public yet, and really not sure how much will be available to the public, as opposed to more from a corporate standpoint and Hollywood standpoint. But Synthesia and HeyGen, other platforms are available. So you can create an AI avatar. You can create the voice on here. You can use your own and be able to create that on AI, or just create one if you don't want to do yourself, and be able to do that. The nice thing with this too is you'll be able to scale this a lot quicker, a lot faster than you could as an individual. You can create one video and be able to put in hundreds and thousands of different names or company names in there. So from a sales and marketing standpoint, you can use these platforms and get out there and do that. So I've talked, I was talking about HeyGen months ago, but these platforms have been out for a while, but they continue to improve and they continue to put these things out there. So the avatar in Motion 1.0, you can move your hands, make gestures, the tone of the voice. So they become more and more realistic as time goes on. When they first came out, it was like, wow, it's really cool. But you could tell it was the uncanny valley. It was close, but not close enough. Where now we're seeing what these tools can do, and certainly how we, from a tone standpoint, you can hear if someone's curiosity or someone's getting loud, so they can get a little more now closer to a real human talking and what that would look like. So that is available in HeyGen, and Synthesia just talked about their 2.0. There's they did a whole here where they went through and talked about all the updates. So they made a lot of updates within there. So both of those are available now to be able to get those updates and take a look at those, how you can use those. Again, from a sales and marketing standpoint, these are amazing tools to be able to do that. People always, if you've ever done cold calling, you've ever done outreach, you're always looking for ways to improve that or ways to get your message out to people. There's companies like Loom that you're able to just record yourself in a video, just like I'm doing now in StreamYard. You're able to do that, and you're able to show your screen and be able to share things with people. Well, some people don't have the time to do that. They don't want to do that, don't want to go on camera, whatever it is. Now these platforms are available to you to be able to do that and be able to use these to reach out to people. Both of these companies, I've talked last week and some of the previous weeks about the amount of money. Over 50% of venture capital is going into AI companies right now, and what's going on there. So HeyGen raised about 60 million recently. Synthesia raised about 90 million last year. So that does not mean they're going to succeed or stick around. I do talk about companies and possibly companies to look at to invest in, just because they're having that amount of money. That money can be spent very quickly. Again, trust me, someone who worked a lot of dot coms that became dot bombs. That money can come and go quickly. So, but there's a lot of big money being invested in the world of AI and in these platforms. So it is something to take a look at. Companies like Cloudflare are coming out to be able to combat some of these AI bots and some of the way people are using them. Cloudflare is publicly traded. So if you want to take a look at that, and they have a new free tool to prevent bots from scraping websites hosted on its platform for data to train AI models. So when you look at Google or OpenAI and Apple, they want to scrape websites to scrape the information. That's a big issue for them right now, is getting the most information they can. Companies like OpenAI have lawsuits with the New York Times and others where they went in and you're able to look at articles that are behind the firewall. So if you're not paying, you shouldn't be able to access some of these sites where OpenAI was able to do that and then share the whole article. So that was a problem. They had to stop that. But the other problem was, well, you looked at all the data. You have our data now. You didn't pay for it, so there's lawsuits. As more recently, OpenAI is cutting deals and working with these companies to be able to get more information, to be able to continue to put that in there. And I'll talk a couple stories here. There's some really good things that come out of that. But that's a big problem with all of them, is trying to figure that out. So if you want to protect your data and put those things in, this is a big part of that. Using Cloudflare or some of these other different platforms that can protect your data from going through that. Target, we talk all the time about some of these bigger corporations trying to figure out how can we use AI to actually help our customers, help our employees, and do that. And Target is looking now at a new AI tool to help their store employees to be better, to better serve the clientele. They're rolling out their store companion chatbot as an app for their employees at nearly 2,000 stores. So it's going to be on their handheld devices to answer questions about process and procedures. And the in-house tool is currently piloting about 400 stores before the nationwide rollout. So that's something where they'll be able to quickly use these tools to be able to help employees understand what the process around something, to be able to help customers answer questions, be able to help people find things, or find if they're going to have something, if they don't have it. All those things are able to use this AI tool to do it a lot quicker, a lot more efficiently. So that's something that we've seen these pricing boards, we've seen ordering systems that have used AI that haven't gone over well. So especially the bigger the company, the more they're struggling trying to figure out how can we really use AI. We know it's going to be efficient. We know we can do these things, but what's going to really work and help us with this? And that's a big way to do it. So. Another thing, OpenAI, a few different stories from OpenAI here. One, they're joining a lobbying group in Washington, the BSA Software Alliance. I don't like lobbyists, lobbying groups, any of it. But this lobbying group, there's companies like Google, Microsoft, Zoom, Oracle, Salesforce are all part of this. Obviously, there's a lot going on within Washington, D.C. We talked about the European laws around AI, and they really haven't adopt a lot here in the U.S. They're trying to figure those things out. So this is why companies like OpenAI want to be on these lobbying company, be able to talk to lawmakers and be able to go through this and help to, as it says, grapple with how to regulate artificial intelligence. To me, it's a catch-22. They shouldn't be involved, but they need to be involved so they can explain to the people in Washington who don't understand anything what they're doing, so then they can try to regulate it. So you need to find a good in-between people that can help and are not part of these companies. Give me a call, Washington. I'm available. So that's a problem when the people who are making and benefiting from this are helping to make the laws, but that's a whole nother topic for a whole nother time. Another thing, OpenAI. So the CEO Sam Altman and Ariana Huffington have announced they're building a personalized AI health coach. So this is a AI-driven behavior change could transform healthcare. So obviously, healthcare in the U.S. is always a big story, and as a staggering 129 million Americans have at least one major chronic disease, and 90% of our 4.1 trillion in annual healthcare spending goes towards treating these physical and mental health conditions. So this platform is built to help with more behavior change, more on the let's try to get things straightened out, and not treat it as much as change lifestyle, change behaviors to prevent it. So more preventative care. So that is something that they are working on. We talk a lot about healthcare and the things that are going on within the system, and that's one of the great things we've seen. AI, the different things, all the different platforms that have benefited from using AI and what can happen there. So if you have a Mac and the Mac app and you're using ChatGPT and was storing conversations in plain text, security flaws were found, as always. OpenAI is updating the desktop ChatGPT to encrypt the locally stored records. So you won't be, people won't be able to access that. If they get access on there, they won't be able to find that data and be able to look at the things that are locally stored on there. I talk a lot of times about large language models. Be careful the data you put in there because it's going to get out. So I love that they're doing locally stored and love that they're encrypting it. Still going to get out. So just be aware of information you want to put in there. So if you're asking questions, general information, fine. I wouldn't be throwing up your financial data or anything else in there. Asking to do your taxes, even though probably could, you don't want your data out there. So there's different ways to look at that and do that. Large language models versus small enclosed systems that you or your company can control, and everything in between. So those are the things you really want to look at. Develop internal systems for that kind of data. Don't depend on the large language models to do that. OpenAI, I talked this before, is banned in China, but it doesn't apply to Microsoft. So again, this is Azure or Azure. I always say Azure. In China, so Microsoft is allowed. So the Microsoft Azure is in there and is allowed to be used, and that is OpenAI. So in a roundabout way, OpenAI and ChatGPT has found its way in there. So through the joint ventures with 21 ViaNet, they open Azure's OpenAI service in China, and 3 China customers confirm they have access to OpenAI models. So bans aren't really working that well if you're going to allow Microsoft in, which is basically OpenAI. But honestly, I think that is a good thing, but that's kind of the way they're getting in there now. Another OpenAI story going back into the healthcare world with OpenAI and Los Alamos National Laboratory announced a bioscience research partnership. So research is huge for AI, especially. So I talk all the time about different systems and what's available out there. From a marketing standpoint, from things of that nature. I use Claude all the time. I use all of them all the time. So I want to continue to test them and look at them since I talk about these systems and I help companies, individuals with these systems. I have the paid version of all of them. I use all of them all the time. And most of the times I'm happiest with Claude from a marketing standpoint. From a research standpoint, you definitely have OpenAI and probably Gemini are both a little better than Claude on there. So this is one of those good things where we see this within the medical field of what's going on and how AI can be used in these different systems in the laboratory settings for this bioscientific research and allow these partnerships to continue to go through. So that is some of the really great things that are coming out of that. And we're starting to look at how those things are helping people within the medical world. So for another thing within the OpenAI world, more Microsoft and Apple, they have dropped their plans for board seats as scrutiny grows. So obviously, Microsoft and Apple are both working with ChatGPT, and from their sense, it made sense to get board seats. They were going to be non-voting board seats, but still be board seats. So they're on the board. They're able to see what's going on. They understand the plans because they're working with them. They're partnering with them. And OpenAI was open to it. But as more and more people started hearing about it and people started pushing back and lawsuits were being talked about, obviously that became an issue for them to be able to do that and be able to kind of go through with that. So it didn't make sense for them to continue to kind of do that and continue to kind of look at that and say, this is what we want to do. So they decided to drop that, to drop those board seats and not be part of that. So, but again, if we look at OpenAI, their ARR, which is their annual recurring revenue, they are 3.4 billion right now. And the biggest part of that, 55%, is the Chat GPT Plus. So that is paying the $20 a month for the Chat GPT Plus. Even though right now you get all the same features with the free version, you just can't use it as much. So they have limitations on how much you can use it. So you have access to a lot more if you're paying the money. As new things come out, they're going to be within the Plus system right now. So, but obviously, if you look at the numbers, I did the math, 93.5 million users are paying $20 a month on OpenAI and be able to do that. So that is a nice monthly recurring revenue that pays off over time, obviously. That's followed by enterprise users at 21%. API, so you can use your systems, can use what's called API and be able to integrate with OpenAI systems. And you pay for that. You pay for, not only using it, the bandwidth. That's 15% of the revenue. And lastly, Teams is 8% of the revenue. So that's how they're $3.4 billion. Again, if you're looking for investments, at some point, OpenAI is looking to be a public company, and Sam Altman is working very hard on that. So that is going to be something you can invest in at some point. Speaking of investing, the darling of Wall Street, NVIDIA, to make $12 billion from AI chips in China, despite the U.S. controls. So I've talked about this in the past a number of times, how important the chips are, how important the companies that make the chips are, and the scrutiny that they've come under from the U.S. government, and some of the things they kind of lock things down to be able to do that. But despite of all the controls and the things that were put in place, they're still going to make about $12 billion, using their chips over in China and the different systems that are over there. So, it's one of those things where I don't think, they could completely stop it. But it's something that the U.S. government continues to look at and monitor and see what can be controlled, what can't be controlled. One of my clients I work with, we do some testing of different things that come out of China into the U.S. For those things, and we see that purposely, and that's why we look at chips and look at some of the other things and what kind of has to go back and forth between the economies. There is a lot more scrutiny what's going on there, but NVIDIA still finds ways to make money. So I've told people since I started doing this 6 months ago, invest in NVIDIA. Most people didn't even know what that was. It's obviously become more of a household name now. Some people did take my advice. I've done very well. I'm very happy for them. I'm not a financial guy. I don't tell you what to do. I just make, suggestions and say, hey, this is what I would probably do. People have asked me, should we still do NVIDIA? And yes, I would still look at it as a good long-term investment. Short-term, I can't tell you what's going to happen tomorrow. So too crazy since COVID. There's no predictability. So speaking of Claude, I've talked about their updates lately. They have artifacts now available, and now they've made them. They can be published and shared. So any artifacts that you make on the Claude system, you can go ahead and remix that artifact and share that and put that out there. So you can go ahead and head over to Claude.ai or go to their X account. They have some really good videos explaining how it's going to work. You can ask Claude to generate docs, code, mermaid diagrams, vector graphics, or even simple games on real time. And artifacts appears next to your chat, letting you see, iterate, and build on your creations in real time and share that across teams if you're working with other people to be able to do that. So showing on one side all the information, showing on the other side the code that's on there. So that's one of the things that Claude has done really well. I think it was a couple weeks ago, I talked about this. They are the most popular large language model across the board right now. Again, they all have their own strengths and better ways of doing things. If you're looking at research or looking at something more solid, you look at a Gemini or OpenAI, ChatGPT over Claude. But when I'm doing it from a marketing standpoint, other things, most times I'm going to use the information I get from Claude. But again, I use them all. I like them all. Musk and xAI have ended talks with Oracle over a server deal. So they were talking about using Oracle for their servers. Musk continues to want to build his xAI. If you use X as a platform, xAI is great. It really helps with that platform, enhances it, and makes it much easier and faster to use. But obviously, X and Elon have plans for being able to build it out and do a lot more with it. And they were talking about building with Oracle. And here it says, even though Larry Ellison may be a friend, but the Oracle executive isn't immune from Musk's impatience, and Musk has ended talks with them, and right now is deciding to do things on his own. That could certainly change, but that was something that was, obviously under not scrutiny, but people are looking at that from an investment standpoint, from that building and how quickly things could be done on that platform. So it'll be interesting to see if they decided to not go back and talks do officially end, or if they're going to start doing that. So a couple more things here. China is leading the world in adoption of generative AI. This doesn't really shock me, honestly, but China is behind in developing AI. So that they have to import AI, mainly from the US and other countries, even though they have a number of companies that are building AI and have certainly some of those are using their systems in the US as well. But from a user standpoint, I think we've seen their system, their phone systems, other things, adopting generative AI a lot quicker. Here in the U.S., the Android phones have certainly done a lot faster and better job of using generative AI. But the majority of people use iPhone, which doesn't have that there. So I think that is a big part of that, as we don't have adoption yet, because people don't have it in the things they normally use. As we're seeing it more and more in Microsoft Teams, as we're seeing it within Zoom, within all these other platforms that people are starting to use normally, they're starting to see it and use it more and be more open to it, especially from generative AI. But I think once you see it really integrated into the iPhone, which again, I was hoping for Siri to be more integrated sometime this year, but now it looks like it's going to be pushed off until next year, even though the new phones and the new iOS are coming out in September. They said the Siri integration will not happen until next year. But as those things happen, we'll see a lot more adoption on there. But right now, China is leading the world in adoption of AI. And lastly, Perplexity. So I've talked a lot about the search game and how AI is going to change search and things that are going into it. Perplexity is a big part of that. They're looking to see how they can get more people to use Perplexity.ai to do the searching. And they've come up with a first of its kind revenue sharing program with web publishers whose content appears in search results. So when Google made a change a little while back, there was a lot of people who were not very happy, where AI can go out and find the information. So if I do a search and I'm looking for, find me more information about microphones I can use, and I do a search on that, the generative AI can take all the information that I found, bring that back to me, and just show me right there in the search window. I don't have to go to a website. I don't have to go to a blog. I don't have to go to a video and all those things I would have done before to do that. It's bringing it to me, and it's so much more convenient. The problem is people are putting that information out there because they want you to come to their website, their blogs, and their videos. So it's killing that part of it, which overall can kill a lot of ad revenue for Google. So companies are trying to find that, that fine line to walk and that go back and forth in between. What's the best way to do this? So Perplexity is trying to do a rev share program of the information and knowledge that's found, and they'll be able to do that with you. So if I go ahead and click on, give me the top cookbooks in 2024, and that information comes back. Anybody who help with that information, and then that comes back there, and it's obviously taking a while here for whatever reason. But when that information came back, that company or that person could be part of that revenue sharing program. So, come on, Perplexity, what's going on there? Let's go popular. Oh, usually kicks up something, but if I could spell right. I don't have my pro on. Well, I forget. But so you understand that's Perplexity and how it's going to work and the revenue sharing program. So typically you can go in there and click on that, but maybe because I wasn't signed in. I thought I was signed in earlier. So, but that is the information this week, all the news in AI. As always, if you have any more questions or anything, please contact me. Go into my website, arcasysllc.com. We have a whole list of creator tools here in the notes I'm going to share now out on the platforms. We also have our AI tools database. We go into specific some of the better tools and better platforms out there that you can use, and we kind of do a breakdown of what they are, how they work, and you're able to go right to the tool itself and find all these things. See if we're going to help your business. So if you need help from individual or your business standpoint, please feel free to contact me. I'll be back next week. Should be at my normal time, 8:30 a.m. Eastern time. Go live on Clubhouse. So if you want to come into Clubhouse, Breakfast of Champions, you can interact with me more there and ask questions live right then and there. Also, always on my YouTube, LinkedIn, and Facebook, put all the information out there. So thank you so much.